Why hello and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, and as I have been promising for a few months, we're going to review the updated Minstrel. Alright, so this is after the rework. There are some mixed opinions and feelings about what they did with the Minstrel. Basically, if you don't know, the Brawler is basically the newest class where they made the yellow tree and the Brawler kind of a support tree. What does that mean? Well, normally when you put points into a tree, it always costs 1 for whichever tree you're traded into, and if you'd put extra points into another tree, it would cost 2 for every 1 point. But now what they've done is basically the yellow tree is just 1 extra point, whether you spec into the blue line or the red line, okay? So that's the new kind of update. That was what they did with the Brawler, and they've now done that with the Minstrel. They probably do that with a few other classes too. I hope they don't go too much on that, because I'm not sure. Some of the trees, it redid some things that certain people didn't like or did like. What are your opinions on that? Leave a comment. But today what we're going to do is we're going to review the Minstrel here. We're going to go through all of these little by little. I will have a couple timestamps thrown in through the video for you, and we will just take our time, go through every single thing, go through the skills. What do they do if you're a new player? Maybe you just need more in-depth if you have been playing for a while, but you just want an update of what they're doing with the new Minstrel. All right, so my Minstrel is only 120, he's not max level, but you know, he's enough where we can see all the abilities and talk about it. All right, so we'll start with the trait tree panel. Let's go ahead and just directly start with the blue trait, or the Watcher of Resolve, which is basically the healing tree. It's pretty much, Minstrels are the main healer, right? We all know that. They're kind of the main healer in the Lord of the Rings Online. So, basically, we'll look through these right now. There are 3 stances. We'll start with the stances for Minstrels. Again, if you want to watch my older video, you can on Minstrels, but this is the updated one. I'll link this to the other one. Dissonance stance is basically your damage stance. It makes all your heals single only on yourself, so you don't want to be in that. So you're going to want to be, if you're in blue line and you're healing, you're going to want to either be in the resonance stance, which it says if you hover it at all times, it'll tell you. Let me bring this little thing over here for us. There we go, just like that. So now when we hover it, we can see those numbers right there for you while I'm hovering things. All right, let's continue on here. So the first things we're going to go through are the stances. So we have the resonance stance. So you'll be able to see it right here. Again, I'm sorry, I cannot blow this up much more. I play on a 2K monitor, and it messes things up to bring the resolution down to 1080. So I will read things for you. And again, hopefully you watch this on a nice TV. It'll be very, very clear for you. All right, it'll be very nice and high definition because I record it very high quality. So if you're watching it on a bigger screen, it's probably a good idea. But again, I'll read it out for you so you won't mess you up. The resonance stance. So this basically, the generic thing at the bottom there, it increases your outgoing healing, makes your healing stronger. Woohoo, great. Major ballads become a healing ballad. So there's 3. Minstrels always have 3 ballads, okay, that they can use over and over. Ballads are these 3 simple ones that you can spam. I'm here in Mosswood because there's a dummy, and this is the easiest way to show you without killing the target or it attacking me and killing me. So if you click the target, you can see when I use these ballads on it, it causes to be attacked, right? Certain ballads stack in certain ways. For example, the minor ballad will keep stacking up, and you can see all these stacks up here. They'll continue to stack up when out of combat for things. All right, so you can see there, we'll have that bonus there for 9 seconds. So we stack all those, and now look, it lets us use a coda. But again, we'll get into that more in a minute. So basically, the resonance stance then increases your healing. Echoes of Battle becomes a melody of battle. What is that? Well, normally, if you're in the damage stance, this ability only works on an enemy. But now you turn it into something you could put on your friend, and allows you to reflect and give them stuff, and gives them some bonuses and stuff there. You could put on your friend to help them out. You also have the melody stance. This is kind of the more neutral stance. So when you use this stance, everything's kind of neutral. The Echoes of Battle is the normal Echoes of Battle, not the dual sword. So when you put it on someone, it reduces their things, and it stabs them with a sword. And it basically just stays on them for a long time, giving them debuffs until you're either out of mana, because it costs 1 mana a second, or you run out of, or you're killed, right? Or they interrupted somehow. So that is a nice little bonus there to being in that stance. And again, if you're in the DPS stance, it would be a double sword. Timeless Echoes, right? It does a little bit more damage, still debuffs, similar things, does some other stuff there as well. and it's double swords attacking him. Kind of cool. It's a really cool animation. I really like it. But again, when you're in the healing stance, which we're going to talk about now that we're staying in the healing stance for this, covering this part of the thing. All right, so let's go through the abilities here first real quick. So we have some of the normal ones. We have this little one here of Spirit. This one is one you could just toss on someone. I'm going to use it on myself. You could just use it on yourself if you're not targeted on an ally. If you're targeted an enemy, it will always just heal yourself. So you can stack this up to 3 times on one target. So if you notice, I have 3 of them up there on me. And I'm going to make it a little bigger for you to see. Ta-da! All right, so it's going to look a little more blurry, but now it's bigger so you can actually see it a little bit better up there in the corner while I cast that ability. So again, you can see up here on the things, there's lots of buffs that you start getting as you cast things over and over. There's also these other buffs, these hearts, these are things of the world. These are world buffs, so on your character. But you see you can stack it up to 3 times. Nice, perfect, easy. Raise Spirits. So this is normally a single target if you're in DPS, but it applies to the whole fellowship. Basically gives a certain heal, and then heals a certain amount every 3.5 seconds, all right? So it's a pretty nice little thing there. You can toss it on there. It keeps this little extra heal on there. Basically does one heal and does another heal. It's basically all it does. You can't stack up more than once on one person. It'll just reset the stack. You also have Bolster Courage. It almost does the exact same thing. It's just a little longer induction and a much larger heal, okay? That's pretty much it on that. You also get this thing called Perfect Ending. Greatly heals a single target. So whoever you're targeted on at a certain point, we'll look at the traits and you'll see what that is. But that greater heal, and by the way, if you need to find your skills, you can always go character and go to your skills, right? So C for character, go to the skill tab, and then you can look right here. And then what we just saw was greater perfect ending, right? So there it is. So if you want, you could put this perfect ending on your thing, which I'm personally going to put there because it'll be far more handy for me. All right, I'm going to put the DPS off there, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put perfect ending right here, okay? A little bit more simple for me there to use for later. Then you have Improved Cord of Salvation. This is also applied to the whole fellowship. It's a very quick, it's a longer cooldown. So if you notice, it's all about knowing when to use your abilities, all right, in this game. So it's a longer cooldown, so you cast it, it does an instant heal. It's very nice. It's very, very handy. I'm going to move over that a little bit. But it's fast. It has a cooldown, though. So if someone's dying real quick, you can cast it, right? Then you have something called Inspire Fellowship, all right? This skill will give you some buffs here. It's pretty nice. This skill is not usable in the Dissonance, so you can only use this in the healing stance. That's what it means by that. And it gives some physical mitigation and resistances for a certain amount of time, too. And also, when things like this pop up, we'll look at this in a minute in the blue tree. There's certain things that some skills will have a trigger effect. Like your healing skills will trigger a 15%, induction time reduction, which means you can cast your heals faster, okay? I'll try to make it in layman's terms a little bit there, so when things get a little confusing. So basically, you can do a couple heals, and then as you can see here, perfect ending, and I can cast that, boom, right? And then you can cast some more heals again, right? And you can kind of spam a certain ones, boom, 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 right? And then when you get to a certain amount, you'll be able to cast perfect ending again. There we go, haha, and I'll show you perfect ending again in the trait tree. All right, we're just kind of going through the skills right now. We also have Fellowship's Heart. This is a long cooldown, but basically you cast it, hit your whole fellowship within a certain range. A lot of these have certain ranges. This is a 20-meter range. Always make sure you look up the skills. So just a real quick cover of how skills work with wording. You have a tactical skill, and then it says radius 20 meters and radius 20.2 meters. Basically, some things can extend the radius, is why there's 2 numbers there. And induction time is 1.1 second. Skill type, it's a heal. All right, that's what all that gray is up there. And then it has a little bit of information on that more yellowish words there. Provides a heal over time to fellowships and removes fear effects. Very cool. So if your fellowship just got terrified and some fear debuff is on you, and you don't have the time to use your removal ability on 6 people, you can cast Fellowship's Heart, and basically you encourage everyone to remove all those fear effects, okay? That's why you got to read those little fine print things to know about your abilities, right? That's why we're doing this. Allies in range will become immune to fear effects for 10 seconds. So if there's a boss that does a fear effects, will make your characters run away, silences them, some kind of fear, where they can't use abilities. This is a very handy skill, all right? Fellowship's Heart, again, it's a 2-minute cooldown, it's very long. Then we have Triumphant Spirit. This is really cool. It instantly heals the morale of your fellowship, and also gives, for 8 seconds, your healing skill power costs are actually, I think this might be a little bit of a debuff. but in a 10% healing skill power cost for 8 seconds. Yeah, I think it makes your heals a little more expensive for a few seconds, for 8 seconds. But it also gives the effect to the fellowship within 20 meters. Excuse me. It's not a debuff. It's putting it on your fellowship. Make sure I'm reading the fine print here. You're giving a 10% bonus heal income to all of your friends. So when you're healing them, now they take more healing. Okay, I read that backwards. But a very nice little buff there. Nice little thing. Then we have Legend of the Helm Hammerhand. All right, all fellowships, fellows being your fellowship, gain a morale bubble. It will bubble is broken, no effect will be granted. If the bubble expires, it will grant a small fellowship heal. Bubble strength is 10% of the target's max morale pool before other bonuses apply. It applies a big bubble, 29,000 there, plus a little bit of their max health or whatever, 15-second duration. If it expires without the shield going away, it effects apply the fellowship within 20 meters, restores 2% of their maximum health. Okay? 2-minute cooldown. It's a big one. So you kind of shield your whole fellowship, and if any of those bubbles survive, they'll cause another heal. All right? Moving on. Let's try to not take too long, but again, this is going to be a little bit more of a challenging thing. I'm trying to make this very methodical, going through all the skills, but it's kind of a lot to go over a character, right? A certain class. So again, that's why I did this updated video for you. Song of Aid. Song of Aid is a very long cooldown. 3 minutes and 30 seconds is quite a long cooldown. Anything between 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's a long cooldown. Anything under, like, I would say under 2 minutes, under a minute, that's a more shorter cooldown. And a lot of things are only a second or two, right? It just depends. This is a fast cast. Your fellowship applies a short potential heal to your fellowship and deflects some incoming damage back at their attackers. Cool. Gives you like a spiky armor kind of idea. And it lasts for 15 seconds. And that's pretty cool. So, Song of Aid. We also have Call of, I believe it's an L. Loreth. Hopefully I didn't just ruin that name. Invoke the name of the expert Gondorian healer. Remembrance of her techniques guarantee your next heal to be a critical. So this is very nice. So why you use this one, and I would say timing to use this one, it's a minute cooldown. It causes your next healing crit chance 100%, and your crit healing magnitude 20%. So whenever you crit heal, you heal more. So it's like kind of like if you're attacking, but if you're healing an ally, there's a chance you'll heal them and you'll crit and give them a bigger heal than normal. This will make your next one automatically crit, and it'll increase how much it heals for that crit, 20%. So if you cast this and then you cast, let's say, Improved Court of Salvation, you notice it was automatically crits. So that's the larger number when it comes up. So if you look when I'm doing heals, there's a basic number like that, but the larger ones that get really big are crits. So none of those were crits, but some of them, you occasionally will get a crit, right? It's not very often to get a heal crit, but when you do, it's very, very nice because it helps you catch up. There's a heal crit right there. See that 4,000? A little bit bigger, slightly different animation there. Again, you can go into your combat log and actually see which ones are criticals too if you wanted to, but we're not going into that. All right, so now you kind of know about a lot of the healing skills there. We've kind of gone over those. We've gone over the different stances. We also have this ability called Rally. This is a revive, where basically it's a res, or you can bring someone up that got killed. In LOTRO, we don't get killed, we get incapacitated or knocked out. All right, so Rally revives a defeated ally in combat, and instantly empowers them. So it gives them 80% of their max health back, 50% of their mana back, or power. In this game, it's called power. And affects you have been recently revived 30 seconds. It's a 7.5 minute cooldown. So yes, it's fantastic and all. It's one that you can use in combat, I believe. But it's a long cooldown, so you have to be careful when you use it. I also have another one called, this one is on my little tab over here. I have a hidden tab behind my thing here. I'll just bring it up for you there. We have Improved Grace. This one is up to 5 targets. Revives a defeated target along with the fellowship members nearby. So this will heal everyone around you, but I believe this one cannot be used in combat. That's the difference, okay? This is just a nice one if you're the raid, everyone dies in the raid, and they all don't want to walk back. So Minstrel has to do all the walking, walk back, cast the heal, and everyone around him will be revived. Okay, so that doesn't happen as much in this game anymore, but still, that's a nice revive for them to have at least, and it's a much faster cooldown. In fact, it has no cooldown. Mind you, it has no cooldown. Once you've casted it, it will just be able to be cast again. So if anyone was dead around me, they'd revive, but nobody's dead. So, but again, I can instantly cast it because it's an out of combat one. This one you can only cast in combat. So you can't res your whole fellowship in combat with that, obviously. Versus Rally, that you can res one person in combat while you guys are fighting. You all know the difference of in combat and out of combat, right? We're out of combat right now, but if I auto this thing, see, I can't use it now. You're in combat, see, because I'm like in combat. But I could use Rally if I wanted to. But you've noticed the moment I leave it, I'll go out of combat and I'll be able to use the skill again. It'll be ungray, right? It'll be colored again, which just kind of means you can use it, can't use it. They also do that with effects when you get feared or silenced or something, and they'll block out your skills that you can't use while you're feared. Then you can remove them. So that leads into the next thing. We'll talk about improved story of courage. Basically, every class has a removal thing, but Minstrels have a very powerful one. Basically, this will remove poisons, fears, diseases, wounds from nearby fellowships, 25-meter range. If you cast this, basically it'll remove, it says removes up to 2 effects with a maximum strength of level 125. So again, if it's a 140 boss, you're probably not going to be able to remove them, but you shouldn't be fighting a level 140 boss if you're level 120. But moving on, removes all additional fear effects in a small area around your target. So that's cool. So you can actually target one of your teammates and use this. It doesn't have to be just around you. So that's nice. That's a pretty cool one. Improved Song of Distraction. This is cool. You can use up to 3 targets, the 40-minute range, and the radius is 10. By the way, I made a little comment at the beginning that I actually am going to correct real quick right now. I said that the radius, and I think I said radius and radius, didn't I, with that first one? And one is radius and one is range. That's the difference, okay? So range is 40 meters on this. The radius is a circle around the target of 10 meters. And what is that, you might ask? Well, a radius of 10 is pretty much, in this game, would be about, it's about this area around the pool. So you can kind of look if you, there's certain ways to be able to figure that out and hover certain distances. But these markings up here, but that's too confusing. We're not going to get into that. But anyway, you'll have to learn your radiuses, practice, guys. How far your skills cast, that kind of stuff. Legendary items now can increase ranges of things and stuff, right? If you know that. But moving on, so that's cool. This one, what does this skill do? We didn't even say it. It basically is a 2-minute duration. It makes people basically totally oblivious, NPCs. So normally when you walk up to an NPC, they aggro. This ability, you cast it on them from far away. You can like walk up to like 2 feet in front of them and they will not aggro you. They're very distracted. Hence the distraction. But moving on, so it's a pretty good one. Now you have the next one, Still as Death. This is a 2.5-minute cooldown, 25 seconds. You can immediately cast it and it lasts for 10 seconds. What happens is when you do it, your character faints, you are untargetable, and all aggro drops off you. So if you're in a raid and the boss suddenly targets you, or a bunch of ads, and your tank is desperately trying to get them off you, they're like, ah! You could just, and you're about to die, you can cast this faint for a second. All the ads will choose different targets, the tank can get them, and then you'll pop back up, okay? It also makes you lose aggro, because there's like a buildup of aggro over time, and then you heal a tank, it builds up aggro, okay? I think I have a video about that already, but just a little side note, it builds up aggro. So if the boss, that's why the tank has to keep hitting the boss. If the tank only hits the boss once and you're healing the tank and he's taking damage, after a little while, the raid boss is going to go, that guy, and he's going to come out for the healer. If the tank isn't continuously keeping that aggro up and beating your healing aggro on him, okay? That's common sense with these kind of games, but not for everyone. Not for everyone, right? That's why I got to say all of it. We talked about these heals already and the perfect ending. This one is basically a cool one. You can fear a target, so you scream at him. I can't fear a dummy. They're immune to fears. But another guy would run away from that ability, okay? They'd run away for 15 seconds. And there is a 100% chance on harm after 1 second, 3% chance, 3% break chance on damage after 1 second. Basically, you have a little bit of a leeway. Someone hits them, but if someone hits them after a second or so, they'll come back. They'll unfear. All right, it's to keep it from being OP kind of thing, overpowered. Improved Cry of Chorus. This is kind of like a super buff. All right, it just buffs everything. It immediately gives you all of your it immediately gives you all of your ballads too. A lot of your healing ballads immediately get put up, like you cast your Ballad of Major Healing over and over, and it immediately allows you to cast Code of Resonance, right? Your other heal. It ran out of time because I was out of combat there. But it's kind of cool. It just kind of gives you immediate access to some of your ballads without having to stack them up, right? We have another one called Gift of the Hammerhand. It's a cool name, obviously, off Helm Hammerhand. But Bubble Strength, it grants one person in your fellowship you click on a range of 25 meters, basically a 30,000 shield bubble at this level 120 for 15 seconds, 2-minute cooldown. And then we also have Hammer of Song of the Hammer Hand, and this one is for yourself, okay? Skill type buff, a song to provides you with a shield of morale that must be destroyed before you will losing more morale again. Okay, the name comes from the age, it has a little history there, that those who knew the songs were said of Helm Hammerhand himself. All right, anyway. Bubble Strong Strength is 35% of your max morale pool before other bonuses apply. So if you're max morale, so that means even if you're low on health, whatever 35% of 129,000 up there is, will be the shield for myself, okay? When I cast that, you can see I get a shield. That's that purple right there. And it will last for a certain amount of time there. And pretty cool. So applies on expiration. I get some mana back if it doesn't die in that time. And actually, the bubble is much stronger. It's 60,000. So that's obviously 30% of whatever my health is there. Melody of Battle. I can actually put this on myself if I wanted to. But when I'm in this stance, the melody is the swords one we already talked about. But the Melody of Battle is basically inspires your ally. It gives them some reflect damage and 3% parry chance. All right. So it gives them some extra bonuses, and it costs a little mana, and it kind of stays on kind of like your stances stay on, right? Which is this little thing going around in circles, right? Means it stays on. And then we've got Spirit of Freedom. This basically means if you get knocked down from a daze, a stun, a fellowship maneuver, you can recover from it and pop back up. All right, it's a minute cooldown, and it kind of gets you out of it, okay? Now we got some of the more generic stuff. Let's get down to some more of the generic things from the Minstrel. We have Resonate Piercing Cry, okay? So this is one of the most fun ones, especially if you're a dwarf, because you get to yell, BARUK KHAZAD! KHAZAD menu! All right, anyway, so basically Piercing Cry is a good ability for damaging. We'll talk about it more in the DPS stance in a minute here, but it's great for when you're a healer too, because you can interrupt targets. It says right there, interrupts inductions. Again, inductions are when you're casting an ability, it's this bar right here, but bosses do that too, okay? It's when they're channeling, okay? That's what induction is in LOTRO. You can interrupt them, right? And applies on critical hit and devastate crit, duration 20 seconds. And it does light damage, right? So it's pretty cool. You also have Call of the Second Age. We're going to talk about more about Call of the Second Age once we get into the DPS tree in a second. But it gives you some movement speed for your whole fellowship for 10 seconds, 10%, and it hits people around you in a circle. All right? So again, it does matter which angle you're shooting at, right, and stuff. So now let's talk about the main stuff, the ballads. We already talked about them a little bit, but when you're in healing stance, one of your ballads becomes the Resonance Ballad, basically becomes a healing one. So you can heal yourself or an ally over and over you're clicking on. And you stack these up, okay? And it will open other things, like for example, Coda of Resonance, okay? This requires, it says right there, requires 3 ballad buffs present on the Minstrel. 3 ballad buffs. So it doesn't have to be just this one, right? You can just stack this one up to do it. If you wanted to have 3 of the buffs, you can see it's adding more and more buffs there, right? We have 3 of them now right there. And now we can cast it. Boop. And it's a big heal. It hits your whole fellowship. Yeah, it does, what is it, the whole fellowship? Yeah, applies the whole fellowship. And they also get in 15 meter range, they get damage reduction, -5 damage reduction, which is a buff, basically how strong they are. Duration 12 seconds. Echo heal, all right? And also increases their incoming healing, how much they heal for. So it's a nice little buff there, okay? Now we've got things like Greater Anthem, all right, of Compassion. This says requires 2 ballad buffs present on the Minstrel to cast. All right, so let's do 2. So again, minor ballad. Let's go back to the other minor ballads. This one can stack, and it gives tactical incoming healing, outgoing healing 4%, tactical damage. It does some light damage, okay? It's for the ballads too. If you notice it opened a ballad, right? And there we go, I opened that one, okay? So 2 separate ballads. You need to know which ones are which ones it needs to open it. But again, when I cast this will buff everybody around me, and it will use it up. So it says reduces incoming damage, increases frost and light resistance of all nearby fellowship and raid members, and they take 4% less damage, and their stats, the details are there in the green. Duration lasts a minute and 10 seconds. So it's on there. You can see it up there. Lasts a long time. Again, with this one, you could do one or the other. They seem to be on the same cooldown, if you noticed. They all kind of went on the same cooldown. So that's one thing you have to think about. You kind of choose which one you're buffing. So then once you've used one, you need to use your things again. And then as you can see here, this one's like, oh, this one only requires one anthem. So I could actually, if it was me, I would put the ones that require different levels in different ways. So for example, this one only requires one. This one only requires one ballad present of one of your queues. So I'm going to put them in the beginning there. This one requires 3 ballads present on the Minstrel. So it's really how you want to do it, I guess. 2 ballads and 3 ballads. So I would do it something like that. This one costs 2 as well. So I would do it like this, right? So then you can kind of go through. You've got Lesser Anthem of Composure. This one gives resistances to everybody around you. And as you can see, they all go on cooldown, except for the Coda, mind you. So anthems are all on the same cooldown. Coda is not. So that is kind of why they probably... I might actually just go ahead and move that back down here because I kind of like it there. So you got your heal. And when you use your Coda, it usually always removes all of your things. And it says it right there in orange. Removes all ballads from the Minstrel. So if you stack them up... Again, if you notice, what you want to do is you want to stack up, you want to cast one of your anthems, and then they won't remove anything, then cast your Coda. And then stack them again. That's your order of operations, basically, to use those abilities. You can also then use heals in between, obviously, if you're being a healer. But if you have time in between all your healing, you can be doing this combo over and over, okay? Now, again, we also have Anthem of Prowess. This one increases melee damage, makes people attack faster, gives them defense against orc craft damage and fell rot, which is kind of like a decay evil damage. And then you also Anthem of Free Peoples. This increases all of your fellowship's incoming healing for a minute and a half, and also how much damage they deal by 10%. So that's a really good one. And that's pretty much it. We covered the anthems for the healing tree there. Things do change. Anthems will change depending on what stance you're in. So sometimes, so if I change stances here, you'll actually see, the anthems do not change, but the Coda changes. So the Coda went to Coda to Melody, gives you some different bonuses there, being in the other stance. This is the neutral stance. And also, if you notice, Hero Strike also changed. It gives me a little heal. It removes a corruption. We'll jump into Hero Strike now. Sorry, we're going into the next one. It's your sword, it's your melee ability, okay? Basically, it's kind of a buff ability. Restores your morale, removes a corruption off an enemy, corruption stack on bosses, and you need to remove them. And if I switch it to this one, Healer's Strike, what it does instead is instant fellowship heal. Basically increases your whole fellowship's healing by 10% for a little while. So if I use this one, there we go. I've got nice little buff there for outgoing healing modifier. So I do 10% more healing. So it's good to cast that occasionally when you're in the healing stance. But there we go. We have now covered all of the healing skills, okay? We need to now talk about... So I'm going to move these up here because you'll need these later. This is kind of a fun one. This is a little side note. This is a little fun one. Irresistible Melody. If you cast this in a 10-meter range around you... so radius versus range, okay? So usually range is wherever you're selecting the target, how far away you can do something. For example, if I select the target from over here, okay? And then radius means around the target. So again, like we were talking about, if I was going to attack that thing with an AoE ability, I'll show you that in a minute, it would be how far can I shoot it, and then the radius around it, how many bad guys around it will be hit, okay? Keep those things in. But anyway, back to the melody. I'm getting ahead of myself. When you cast the melody thing, if there's anyone around that's a player, they'll start dancing uncontrollably. So it's a little bit of a cheeky ability there. All right. So now that we've gone over that, everyone take a deep breath, grab a drink. Hopefully this is helpful to you. Hopefully you're following. Please feel free to leave comments and questions. I will gladly try to answer them for you. Now we're going to open up the trait thing, the little Gandalf down here, right? Go to the trait tree panel. And now what I want to do is I want to cover the blue trait tree panel, what they do, what abilities they give you, because again, when you're using them. So let's go for the first one here. This one gives you, I'm not going to say every single name. We're just going to go through these real quick because we're going to make this video too long otherwise. Critical healing magnitude, 20% increase when you have all 5 ranks in this. What does that do? That basically makes whenever you crit heal, it does 20% more. Okay? We already talked about critting. Increase the crit chance of your heals. 5% if you have 5 ranks in it. Perfect, all right? Follow up. Critical heals speed up skill use. On every heal skill, heal skill on critical hit, negative, this is where that buff came from that we looked at. Remember? Healing skill induction time, 20 seconds. What does that mean? You get a negative healing induction. It means that little thing down here at the bottom is faster, okay, by 50%. When it's green, it says negative, right? It's kind of like counterintuitive. You're like, negative, isn't that a bad thing? No, no. Negative healing induction for yourself is good. You want to be able to cast faster and make that cast heal induction less. That's what it is, okay? Next one, we have Soothing Voice. Voice of the Rings. Sorry, just a little drill there. 10% outgoing healing affected modifier. Sweet, so more healing bonuses. 30% ballad restoration, power restore. All right, one of our ballads has the ability to restore some power. All right, there's a chance for that, and that basically is what that does. Cool. Raised Spirits now applies a similar Strength Fellowship AoE heal in addition to a self-heal. 30% increases heal strength. So normally Raised Spirit is a single target heal, but in the blue line it becomes a Fellowship AoE heal. It hits everybody, okay? Improved Bolster Courage. Bolster Courage is always an AoE heal. We already talked about that, but now it's 20% stronger if you put 5 points into that, okay? Improved Court of Salvation. Again, these are all good to have. These are your main heals. These are like your bread and butter, okay, heals. Court of Salvation will grant your target 1% of their max morale for every nearby ally. Court of Salvation now grants a fellowship-wide heal. So instead of being a single target where it normally is, it's a fellowship heal, all right? And it heals a little more based on targets around you, okay? Like I just read. Resonating Piercing Cry. Scoring a critical hit with Resonating Piercing Cry, which is this one down here, and this is only in the blue tree, mind you. Area around the target lasting 20 seconds. Places an area around the target for 20 seconds. Bolster Courage and Raise Spirit are now more effective on allies within that area. Okay, so what does that mean? That means if all your tanks and melee people are fighting up here and they're all battling this dummy or a raid boss, if you roar at it, there's a small chance. What was the chance again? On a critical hit. So if it crits, which it did, if you notice, it actually did put something around there, a little box. I'm not sure if that is from my ability or if that's from something else. It makes them, all your fellowship members around that raid boss now will get better heals from your bread and butter heals, right? The ones they just mentioned. Cool. Improved Coda of Resonance, all right? Increases incoming healing, damage buff duration, okay? It just buffs it, basically. It buffs his abilities. You have Inner Strength. Your song influences your inner strength. It increases magnitudes by 1%. All damage bubbles are 15% more effective. So basically that buffs your damage bubbles, like your Song of Hammer Hand, Gift of the Hammer Hand, right? Again, Song is for yourself. Gift is for another person to get the shield. That's why you have 2 different skills. Side note there. Then we have Legend of the Hammer Hand, which we sort of talked about it, but I don't think we really covered it enough here. All fellows gain a bubble. The bubble is broken. Oh, we did talk about it, right? The bubble strength. So it's a big AoE bubble. So again, Legend of the Hammer Hand. I don't know. Maybe I should put Legend of the Hammer Hand over here with my other shields. But it's a heal too, so I want to keep it with my heals. So that's how I organize it. You organize your skills however you guys want, whatever is most convenient as you play. It's a lot easier to do as you level up to kind of know what skills you use a lot and what orders. Again, of course, these all have numbers. Control Shift 1, but you can also just click with your mouse. I'm notorious for clicking with my mouse. I sometimes will use my keypad to do certain things that are repetitive, but besides that. Quick Melody, all right? This is another one. Skill healing inductions time reduced by 20%. Just across the board. Just a buff. Great. All right, fantastic. Improved Song of the Hammer Hand. 20% stronger bubble. Cool. Anthem of Composure, right? We already talked about what it does. It does these things. In fact, it's going behind my thing, isn't it? I apologize. Sorry. There we go. All right, there. So that's that. Cool. And then we also have Inspiring Finish. Ballads have a chance to build a stacking enhancement for Coda of Resonance. Each stack will cause the Coda of Resonance to add 3% outgoing healing, up to 15%. 100% chance in finish application chance, which is your other Inspiring Finish, is the other one over here. Your other heal. All right. Well, anyway, and then if you, by the way, as you put points into blue tree or any tree, there's always a thing, whichever one you're directly traded into, you'll have things down the side here. So ballad healing bonuses. This is where we get perfect ending. You put a certain amount of points in the blue, you get perfect ending as an ability. Bolster courage, a portion of bolster courage heal is also applied to nearby fellowships. So if you heal one person, it'll apply to someone next to it a little bit. Triumph, this is where you get Triumph of Spirit, the ability. That's how you get it. This is how you get the Call ability, right? Appears. This is how you get Rally, and actually Rally has a 300-second reduction in cooldown, which is huge. So it's only a 7-minute cooldown in 30 seconds instead of a huge difference. We'll see it in a second on the other one. And Cord of Legend, 100% chance Cord of Salvation healing. So it makes it much more powerful, right? So again, pretty self-explanatory. It's a lot of healing buffs, okay? So now that we've covered that, we've talked about that, let's talk about the yellow tree, okay? Let's talk about the support tree. Now, the support tree will also help us in the red warrior tree. The warrior tree will be a lot easier to go over very quickly because it's just kind of a DPS tree. But let's talk about the yellow tree real quick. Let's go over it. So, improved strikes increases damage and healing done by your strike skill, which again is your melee thing, right? That changes depending on what stance you're in. And also your melody changes depending on what stance you're in, right? We've already talked about that. So there we go. Here's another one. Memories of Battle. This one improves your melody, the swords that stab people when you put them on it. All right, so again, improvements. This one gives Inspired Fellowship, makes basically your AoE Fellowship heal we already talked about be a lot stronger. This one is one of the anthems that gives the buffs. There's one of the anthems we have. Here's another one, Thunderous Coda. Coda Fury, it changes every Coda of Resonance echoes around your target, applying a small heal effect. If you're in DPS form, what this will do is it'll actually help Coda of Fury, which the difference is whether you're in your damage form. So you notice Coda of Fury, there's Coda of Fury, okay? Now if you're in your healing form, it'll switch back to Coda of Resonance, okay? It's just so everyone got that. Then we have Gripped by Fear buff. It basically makes the grace period longer on your fear. So you have a few seconds, basically, if someone damages it or a bleed is damaging the thing you just feared away, it won't break. It won't have that 100% chance to break the fear and then run back. You have a little bit of a grace period. It's basically what's going on. That's why it says grace period duration. Instead of 1 second, it turns into like 4 seconds or something. Like that. Or something. Or, you know, something. Of all trades, okay, this is just purely a buff, and you can see it increases outgoing healing, tactical damage, range damage, melee damage. Cool. Awesome. Just increases a bunch of stuff. All right. Again, this whole tree is a support tree to one of the other two trees. That's why it's kind of more generic stuff. Chance of Pace. So this actually might be a good one to trait into my healing tree. I don't have it right now, but I might try it later. Healing skills sometimes grant you and a buff that will make your next offensive skill crit. That's why it's basically, you have a chance, you'll see the numbers there all change. When you use a heal, now you have this ability to let your next offensive ability crit, which works really well with the resonating piercing cry, because remember what happens when it crits? It leaves an AoE near that person, that enemy, that will help you heal your allies around that enemy. So there's kind of like the play on using that. Tactical Mastery. This just increases your tactical mastery and your tactical mitigation. So it makes you a little tankier against magic, makes you do more magic. Also helps your healing. Tactical Mastery will help your healing too. But in this case, I wasn't using it. Greater Anthem. Here's where you get your Anthem. We already talked about it. Here's where you buff your song, basically your removal. It adds some more abilities to be able to remove stuff. In addition to your original effects, it also, Courage will remove additional fear effects in a small area around your target. Cool. We also have word spread spreads. Rank 1 and 2, Gift of the Hammer Hands. Oh, okay. It allows you targets for Gift of the Hammer. Increases how many targets you can give with Gift of the Hammer Hand. Well, that's kind of cool. It like spreads around. It gives shields to more people. That's pretty cool. It looks like it gives 1 at rank 1, then plus 2 more. So pretty much you can hit your whole fellowship with it. 6. That's pretty cool. I might want to actually put points into that. I don't know why I don't have points in that. Moving on. Songs of Woe. Critical chance of ballads. All right. Just increases the chance of your critical ballad to either heal or your ballads to do damage. They don't really do that much. They're kind of there for consistent building for your anthems and your codas. Okay, that's pretty much what they're there for. Invigorating anthems. This reduces the cooldown on all your anthems, which again, remember, they're all tied in cooldown, so it's kind of nice to have their cooldowns reduced. Duration of anthems increased by 25 seconds. Cool. When it says 25 plus 25 anthem duration, they're talking about seconds, mind you. I don't know why there's not a little S there to say seconds, but that's okay. Maybe it's just a little typo. I don't know. Perfect performance. All right, your ballads, outgoing healing increased, tactical damage. It depends. It just shows, it buffs your ballads, what their buffs give. Your 3 ballads. Cool. Excuse me. Sharing a story. A critical hit with a ballad will reset Piercing Cry's cooldown. So remember Piercing Cry? So if you crit with any of your things, whether it heal or a damage crit, you'll get a reset on it. That's kind of cool, right? Its cooldown of 10 seconds will immediately be back up. So that's cool. And then we have Song of Aid. This is where you get it. We already talked about Song of Aid. We have Anthem of the Free Peoples. We already talked about it. There's 3 points you can put into it. And we have Strike a Chord. Strike a chord. Strike that subscribe button while you're at it, guys. Your ballads may be beautiful to you, but your foes would disagree. Oh, it's pretty funny. I like the description. In Melody Stance, your ballads inflict the bonuses you gain as debuffs on the enemy. Cool. So basically, if I put points into that, these things that benefit me, like increased tactical damage, outgoing healing, incoming healing, it'll do the opposite to the enemy. Ooh. Cool. And if you notice, my ballads also reduce the cooldown of Cries of Chorus by 2 seconds, which is cool. Then you have Tale of Tales. All right, Tale of Tales. This is a special. This is an actual ability. Tale of Tales effects grant more and greater bonuses each time it tier up. Fate resistance. Cool. So it gives you some stuff. Using an anthem, skill will now also tier up the Tale of Tales effect to nearby fellowship or raid members. So it's more buffs. It buffs things up as you're doing it. It's kind of an in-game thing. I might want to throw it in there later. I'm debating on which ones I actually want to use in my tree, but I'm not max level, so I'll actually have more points in the future to use. So cool. And then we got our last one here for the yellow tree, which is called Call to Greatness. And this has different effects for every single class in your fellowship, okay? For Bjornings, Thickened Hide, Call to Wild, and Nature's Boon. Excuse me. Let's see what it does first. Resets the cooldowns of key skills. This is a raid-wide effect. So it hits everybody in your raid, not just your fellowship group. So when you're in a raid, there's 6 groups of 4. So you can hit everybody, right? Not just your other 5 fellows in the fellowship. Because when you make a raid, there's like groups still. We'll talk. You can go watch my battle videos for more details on that. You may only receive this effect once every 2 minutes, so multiple minstrels can't be casting it over and over and over. Make it really strong. It's a 7-minute cooldown, costs a bunch of mana, and then as you can see there, you can go through it. It resets the cooldowns for those, for the Bjorning, for the Brawler, Come At Me, and Battle Fury, for Burglar, All In, Coup de Grace, or Coup de Grace. I don't know how you say that. Coup de Grace? Coup de Grace? It doesn't matter, it's French. And Trickster. Captain, their abilities that get refreshed to Reform the Lines, Oathbreakers, Shame, and Shield of the Dunedain. Champions get Unbreakable Champions Duel reset and Great Cleave. Guardians get Juggernaut, Hammer Down, and Cataclysmic Shout reset, which are all really like pretty long cooldowns, especially the Juggernaut one. It's like a 3-minute cooldown, 2 or 3 minute cooldown. So that's a really awesome one. That's our 100% chance to block for a certain period of time. It's the Guardian's big one. Hunters get Rapid Fire, Burn Hot, and the one Trap all reset. Lore Masters get Murderous Crows, Nature's Fury, and Ancient Mastery reset. Minstrel's Legend of the Hammerhand and the Cry of the Wizards, which is kind of cool because Cry of the Wizards we already talked about. Maybe we didn't talk about Cry of the Wizards yet. Well, we're getting there. And then let's see here. Sorry, I lost my place. Runekeepers get Essay of Exhalation, which I believe is their one that lets someone put a thing on someone, and they die in a certain amount of time, they get revived, which is cool. Combustion, and a couple other things. Wardens get Free Peoples, Reckless, and Javelin of Deadly Force reset. So a bunch of stuff, a lot of stuff gets reset. So it's a good one to have in there too if you're being a support for a raid. You might want to have that in there. All right, so we covered the yellow tree. Deep breath. Everyone get a drink again. So now, my friends, you should grab a drink. You want to pause it for a second. You should definitely like the video and subscribe, because that would mean a lot since I put so much work into this. And thank you very much, if you would. Only if I earned it, though. And come back with the drink, and let's continue on here. So now I have Redline already set up. So I'm going to click my second trait tree button. I already have set it up. So it's going to automatically switch to my red trait tree. And now let's talk about the red trait tree, okay? So first things first, we're going to go through the actual tree first. We already went through the yellow tree. You can see here I actually have Call of Greatness on here. But I don't know why my hammer hand skills are way over there, though. I'm going to bring them over here. I don't know why. It flipped up around all my skills. Oh, well, that's okay. We don't need them to be perfectly organized. I'll organize them later. So let's go through the Warrior-Skald, or whatever, however you say it. How do you say that? Skald? Skald? Nah, whatever. First one, the fundamentals. Increases your ballad and coda damage by 25%. Coda damage by 25%. Excuse me. I cut that word off and almost sounded like I said something else. Piercing ballads. 15% critical chance of ballads. I'm trying my hardest to not talk too quickly, but I also want to get through this to not make this video extremely long. So if it's a little too fast for you, I apologize. If it's a little too slow for you, I apologize. It's kind of a hard balance I have to get there to get through all these words, but at the same time, get you guys the information and talk about it. So piercing ballads, 15% critical chance damage goes up. Cool. And finesse rating. Cool. So it buffs your ballads. We have Anthem of War. This is an anthem. This is one you use when you're in the DPS form. Again, I'm going to put my character in a DPS form, dissonance form, so you can see some of the abilities change. Oh, no, they are organized. Excuse me. They just looked weird because I was in the other stance. So I take it back. I was organized. Thought I did it ahead. Fierce Cries. 20% cry and call critical multiplier. So that means cries and calls. What are cries and calls? Okay. So again, cry is our... Rah! It's not like crying sad. It's like a scream, like a war scream. It's our dissonance piercing cry. And then calls are like Call to Fate, Call of Oromin, or I can't ever say this name. I'm so sorry. Oromi. I think it's me. Oromi. I don't know. Something like that. Call of the Second Age, Cry of the Valor, Cry of the Wizards. So all of these abilities are here, which are kind of your main bread and butter damage abilities in DPS form for Minstrel, are all buffed by that. So cool, cool. Critical Strikes. Basically, this increases your crit chance across the board for some of your stuff, and Tactical Crit Multiplier, which means 5% chance to crit, 5% chance to do more damage, 5% more damage when you crit, okay? 30% chance Piercing Cry will crit, this one right here. Call, that's where you get your call ability, which we'll talk about in a minute. This kind of buffs it, adds more targets, does more damage, okay? We have this weird call, and we just talked about that one. Ballad Emboldening Finish. Ballads have a chance to build a stacking enhancement for Coda or Fury. Each stack will cause Coda or Fury to add 5% damage buff up to 25%, which is pretty cool. And it very high chance to apply there, so cool when you have all the points into it. Song of Arda. I know how to say that. That's the planet we're on. Middle Earth is like the area. It's like, think of it like a continent, Middle Earth. Arda is the planet. Anyway, increases your light damage by 25%. All of your cries and your calls will almost all be light damage, including your... You do a lot of light damage, because light damage in this is kind of like the spiritual, like, magic damage, okay? Because Lord of the Rings Online, there's magic in it, obviously, probably more so than even what Tolkien put in his, even though Tolkien definitely has magical elements in his stories. But without going into a whole lore video, they use light damage. That's the more like magical powers, right? Like the wizards have, like the Astari. Okay, moving on. We also have Enduring Morale, gives you a bunch of frickin' HP, and a 1%, 1 second Call of the Second Age stun duration. So that's cool. So now Call of the Second Age actually gets a little bit increased stun duration. When it's in DPS form, it gives a stun, not just movement speed to your team. We also have this Echoes. It increases Battle of Echoes damage. Remember, that is the skill that you can click on people. And the swords will stab, stab, stab. It's a lot stronger in this stance. Still reduces some of their stats, like their target song and cry resistance rating go way down, right, for your other abilities. So it's good to toss them right at the beginning of the fight. If you can, and then throw in a Scream, into a Call of Fate, right, into maybe a Call of Omar, into your AoE close range, and then you can toss your other ones on there too. Boom, boom, look at all that damage. And I basically did 140,000 damage. He's dead, right? So that was about it there. Let's finish the last ones here. Herald's Strike, right? Dissonant Strike will steal 2.5 physical mitigation from your foes. So it actually reduces their defenses, increases your defenses. It's almost like a steal. That's cool. Your buffs cannot stack. 50% morale stolen. So you can see there's some things, what it does. It kind of explains the split. 2.5 away from your enemy, removes corruptions, and 2.5 for you. Cool? Cool. Awesome. And then we got improved Coda of Fury. I just realized I didn't put all my points in this. I should have. 25% chance to reset Cry and Call cooldown. Coda of Fury has a chance to reset it. So there's a 50% chance for your Coda to reset. So what is your goal? Is to be casting your ballads, building up your Coda, and then there's a chance that this will reset all of your other calls and cries. So that's really huge. I actually will probably respec. I didn't realize I only put 1 point in it. That was just me misclicking. We also have Echoes here. All damaging cries and calls have a 33% chance to apply bonus DOTs, which means damage over time. Dot. Okay. This dot may stack up to 3 times. Cool. So you can stack damage over time. And this is where you get Cry of the Wizard. Okay, cool. So we've covered the red tree. Now if we look over on the bonuses you get as you put points into the red tree, we have all ballads give you a short 5% tactical damage buff. Cool. Piercing calls, I believe that does stack too. I think you use all your ballads, they all give that bonus. Yes, they do. Look, they're all stacked right there. There's all your bonuses. All right, cool. Piercing Cry, the chance to reset your cries and calls is reduced by 10%. Cool. Resist, excuse me, not reset, resist. So the enemy can't resist them as much. Your attack duration is reduced by 10%, so you attack faster. Cool. Haste. Ballads reduce the active cooldowns of your cries and calls by 1 second. So every time you use this, and as you can see when I use these, it'll actually reduce the... Oh, that was the 100% chance to reduce. Did you see that? So, oh, look at that. I did it again. It's like I'm critting it. So I have that one thing. Remember, we have that if I crit, it resets it. Well, there you go. So that's kind of cool. So if I use these, and then I crit with one of these... Actually, it's just for the cries, isn't it? Reset Cry. Yeah, and call cooldowns. So that's pretty cool. We'll keep going there. Freedom, 10% chance of War Speech calls. War Speech is your one you're in. Yep. Excuse me. I lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah, Wizard to allow you to use Raise Spirits, Cord of Salvation, or improve versions of these skills for 10 seconds. Basically what it allows you to do is while you're in this speech, this dissonant speech, you normally can't use heals, and that gives you a chance to be able to use heals for other people besides yourself. The ability to single healing skill from another stance. Oh no, it just switches the stance for a second. Not too big of a deal, but it helps you. This is where you get Cry of the Valar, and this is where you get Encore. Encore. I guess it's Encore. A 30% chance for Codas to cast out ballad debuffs. So not cast out ballad debuffs. So basically, usually when you use your Coda, it removes them. There's 30% chance it won't, and you can still have your buffs from your ballads for later. Cool. We covered the red tree. Oh my gosh, we did it. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to do some attacks on this thing to kind of show you. So normally what I would do is I'd throw this up, I'd Piercing Cry it so it would stun it, Call of the Second Age, which are both far radius. We need to go through these skills real quick, these damage skills. But pretty much everything else you've seen. But let's just talk about these 5 main damage skills, because everything else you know about, we already talked about. So again, we have the Timeless Echoes of Battle. They do more damage now. Piercing Cry now has a chance to interrupt inductions, 30% chance to apply a light damage over time. And also, it now has the ability to stun because we are in this stance. And that, I believe, has to do with being dissonant stance. So dissonant stance, when we're in dissonant stance, it tells you what it does there. It kind of, you lose access to all fellowship heals, and all normal heals become self-only, which is kind of a bummer, but you're in a damage stance. And your cry are higher, and your ballad damage are higher, 15% and 25% down there. Call of the Second Age is cool. It kind of, your heals is temporarily unlocked for a single use on a friendly target. So that's the one. There's a 10% chance to apply and a 10-second duration. So sometimes that was that other thing we looked at that I was talking about over here, the freedom thing. So when I cast this, there's a 10% chance for that to happen. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but 10% is not that much. But if that does pop up, you'll notice you can use your heal not on yourself. You use it on someone else one time. That's if you want to kind of throw a heal to your buddy while you're both fighting or something. Call of Oroma, however you want to say it, reduces their light mitigation by a lot for 10 seconds. It's a big AoE, hits 7 targets around the area, and now they'll take more damage from your light stuff. Call of the Second Age is a much shorter range. If you notice, these were 35 meter range, 45 meter range for the Piercing Cry, 35 for this, the Call. Call of the Second Age is only a 10 meter range, but it's 5 targets around you. It will stun targets now because of the certain thing the ability have. We can't stun a training dummy though. But then we have Cry of the Valor. It's a 45 meter range, hits 3 targets in AoE. So again, radius 5 meters. So in a 5 meter radius around that, it will hit any 3 targets, including the target it's hitting. So that's 2 extra targets, right? But we can cast that. Does a little light damage. Boom. And actually has a chance to, it also removes corruptions, a couple other things. We're very good at removing corruptions in Minstrels. And then Cry of the Wizard, 8 targets, 45 meter range, 10 meter radius, much bigger radius than the other one. Does a bunch of light, call upon a powerful song to blast your enemies with an area of effect of light that will slow creatures too. So this also has a slow, target's movement speed is slowed by 30%, and they attack 20% slower. It gives them a 20% attack duration increase, which remember, the plus is bad. You don't want an attack increase in duration. We want a decrease. That's why it's in red instead of green, like the buff for me was in green previously in the video. Your healing and temporary unlocked for a single use on target. Again, that's just a 10% chance. That's from that one freedom thing that I was like, for a second I wasn't sure what I was, for a second I was a little confused. That's what that is for. That's for any of them. So you can see the buff is actually put into the skill now that we're using that. So there we go, and that's what this kind of looks like this, and goes boom. Not super great animation for that one, but it actually did land the debuff, and it is also landed the bleed over time, which is the harsh echoes ability that was over here as well, right? This one right here, echoes. Oh no, harsh echoes. Somewhere in here, somewhere in there. We looked at it already. You remember. We don't need to go over it again. So that's about it. And then again, of course, you can use your ballads to stack up, just like with the healing. You can use Lesser Anthem of Dissonance. This increases your damage, your calls damage and cries by 20% for 45 seconds. Really good. It buffs yourself. And then we also have this other one called Greater Anthem of War. Increases range and tactical damage by 3% for 45 seconds. Cool. And then our Coda has a chance to give us some mana power back, outgoing healing, and does a bunch of damage. All right, now that we're in this stance. So pretty much we have covered all the skills. I would like to add on as a fun little side thing here. There is these skills, which are something that the Minstrel only gets, which is Scribe Stance. And basically you can choose an instrument to scribe in. It's literally, this is a 15-second cooldown, but these are 5 days. So you can make a little like item that you can give to someone, and if they click it, they can learn how to play that instrument permanently for only one character. Not for the whole account, just for the one character who reads that note. That's what minstrels are good for when teaching music. So anyway, I think that's kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool that that's a thing in the game. And anyway, my friends, I hope this helped you out. We really covered them quite extensively. Again, you'll see some combat of me playing minstrels if you want to see actual combat. I wanted to be able to talk these skills out and tell you the orders and stuff. Again, when I fight, I usually use the orders of like I should with the damage or the healing, right? And you really want to cycle between the ballads, keep your buffs on either the enemies or your allies, keep one of your stances on, right? Cycle between your codas, anthems. Do a couple ballads, use your anthems, then use your coda to reset, revert it, and then between use your main bread and butter damage if you're DPS, like these abilities, and then if it's, of course, if you're a healer, use your bread and butter heals, and then learn how to use your special ones when you need to use them. Don't use them too early. You want to save it, that kind of stuff. So anyway, my friends, we've done it. It's a rainy day here in Moss Ward, but we have covered the Minstrel, and it was a pleasure to help you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to my Patreons for their support. Thank you, Skumley, for being a Royal Guard. In fact, Skumley was one of the people that was urging me to do a review of the Minstrel again from the updated, since they updated the Minstrels here in 2023. So you guys have a great day in Middle-earth. Stay happy. And don't forget to like and subscribe right there. You liked it. Next video's up there for guides. And over there is a LOTRO tale where I do voiceovers in the Lord of the Rings Online. And that's our fun entertainment content, not just guides like this. But hey, we did this video in 1 hour. That's pretty darn good. I'll see you all in the next episodes. Stay happy, my friends. And feel free to leave comments or questions. And BARUK KHAZAD KHAZAD I menu. See ya.